find a daily for me. I'm the new proud owner.
Are we ready to show them?
Yes.
This looks really amazing from the outside.
Check it out, you guys. Keeping it in the 90s. The best.
Renee, what do you have to show them?
The tires came in.
What?
Wow, what a difference. Ta-da. PRD Pro Wheels.
That's a cool car. How's it going, everyone? We are back with the Hilux Surf. What we're gonna do to it right now is some maintenance and a lift kit and some preventative maintenance, stuff that hasn't, well, I guess a lot of preventative maintenance, because we don't know the exact history of this imported Japan SUV. These diesel engines, they're prone to having issues with like crack your head basically if it overheats. We've had nothing but good success with this one, but we also didn't really drive it a whole lot, just small amount of miles. So we're gonna do an oil change, then we're gonna put glow plugs, then we're gonna do a timing belt, water pump, kind of get way in there in the front of the engine. Probably have to flush the coolant at that point because you're doing a water pump and whatnot. Then we'll pull the wheels off, put a new lift kit in it. It actually had a lift kit, but this car has a little bit of rust. You see it's, yeah, rusty. So front and rear lift kit. Rear is like a better lift kit than the front or something, or they have it jacked up more in the rear. I got all the right parts. We're also gonna do lower ball joints. I had a really ugly rear bumper, like homemade thing on there, and I got a tow hitch, so if we need to tow something small with this, we can still. But later, we'll do some more stuff, but we're gonna start with all that. Let's dig into this and see how hard it is. Oh, let's look at the parts real quick. Just like an entry level, it's like a 2.5 inch lift, basically. This iBox setup, nothing fancy. These had to come from Australia. Toyota bits and pieces. Oh, I got Mug lower ball joint, stuff like that. Then we got a full gasket kit. This will have like more than what we need, so we won't be using all that. And the glow plugs, just a bunch of stuff. And then later, after this, when we do all this stuff, then we can start doing performance stuff to this car. I have some ideas with like downpipe and like full exhaust and then an intercooler, because this is a diesel turbo with no intercooler. Kind of weird, but yeah, let's get started and then I'll show you guys kind of how it's going. Okay, real quick before I start taking stuff apart. Looks like this is all leaking, which is kind of just a valve cover gasket. Looks to be leaking. Nothing else like major seems to be messing up. Timing belt's gonna be underneath here, and then the water pump's down here. Drain the oil, drain the coolant, pull the radiator out. Probably start with these two things first, timing belt, and get in there to the water pump. Then after that, I could do the glow plugs, which I think that's a glow plug. Little like off-white plastic cap thing. Underneath that, there's glow plugs, so they're actually really little. Wish we had injectors, but it seems very hard to find injectors here in the US, or know if I'm getting genuine Toyota ones when I buy them online from overseas. So I didn't buy injectors, unfortunately, because I don't trust that I don't know. We'll see how they look. I'll take them out and look at them. Because that's something else that apparently could fail on these diesels. I think all diesels, after they get high miles, you gotta clean the injectors, you kind of refurbish them. So I'm gonna start taking stuff apart. After I do the stuff with the engine, then I'll go do like ball joints and start with the lift kit. And I think I'm gonna rip those off. Those are pretty ugly. Later we can get some like rock slider looking things that are black. Maybe actual rock sliders, except we're not gonna be rock crawling this, but they just look good. All right. So I got some of the intake stuff off, draining the oil right now. I already switched the glow plugs. Check that out though. All 4 of them were still intact. So one of the known issues, I guess, with these engines was the tip of a glow plug will break off. After reading a couple things online that had me a little bit worried, like, oh no, it's gonna have happened to mine. Because if the tip breaks off of that, like let's say just one of the littlest bit of the tip of that breaks off, that bounces around in that cylinder, messes up the valves, and you know, causes some damage. So pretty excited that is not messed up. We put some new Bosch ones in there, and I'm gonna get the radiator out like I was describing so I could get to the front of the engine better. Because we're gonna do belts and pumps, and that's probably the high pressure fuel pump. I think so, or that is. No, that's power steer. Weird, what is that? I don't know, got a little bit to learn on this car. I want to get that fan off and then the radiator out so I can start taking the water pump out. Right, we're in there. Probably should have showed you guys before I took the tensioner off, but here's the timing belt. I just released the tensioner. I put the motor at TDC. The truck, car, whatever you guys want, SUV, has 190,000 kilometers. So we're at like a little less than 120,000 miles, but that thing is beautiful. Only complaint I have here is when you install a timing belt and the motor's spinning this way, you need to make it so Toyota is reading correctly, and this guy, whoever did this, he did it incorrectly. So the belt was on this direction, it needs to go on this way. I'm gonna switch it anyway because we're in here, but this one looks like it has like 10,000 miles on it. So a sign of a bad timing belt is where it'll like start separating layers here. We got none of that. The tensioner that I pulled off looked like it's almost new. Here's the tensioner, hydraulic tensioner. What I'm finding out though is that, of course I'll be taking this idler off, so I got a new one. But what I'm finding out is that I have to get this plate off to remove the water pump. So it looks like I'm taking the cam gear off to remove this plate, which before I take a cam gear off, I gotta take that cover off so I can hold a crescent or the right size wrench on here when I impact or break this loose. We're getting all the way deep in there all at once, guys. Way new because I don't know anything about this engine, but it's just an engine, so I'm not too worried about it. I'll be fine. Let me pull this apart. I'll show you once I got that cover off. All right, that should be the most stuff I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna put the water pump back on. Got the new gasket on. And then I did some research and asked some people, and a friend from Australia told me that I'm okay to block off the EGR on both sides of it, so I'll do that next. Well, maybe not next, but hopefully get to that today. And then I did actually find that, I forgot I did this, but I bought injectors. They're not OEM, but we'll pull one of those out, see how bad it looks, probably put the other injectors in that I got. It says OEM replacement. I looked back at where I bought them. Maybe it's a good purchase, I don't know, and I could find somewhere to clean those because this wouldn't be that hard to get to and do later. Put the OEM ones back in after I had them serviced. All right, we're going back together. Water pump that I had got denied. It just looked too cheap and fake looking. Even though it was supposed to be a OEM replacement or like an ASIN part, it wasn't. But I bought it months ago, I believe from Australia. So now I need to just find the correct Toyota part number and redo all this stuff. But we did all the timing belt stuff, which didn't look bad prior to that. This pump looks a little dirty on the outside, but I think all this was done very recently. But anyways, put a new gasket on this, put it back in. It feels like super tight anyway, so I'm not worried about it. What I wanted to say, because I never really addressed this before, there's your crank, here's your cam. The timing belt has nothing to do with crank, so I think this is gear driven over to, like, I believe this is doing your high pressure fuel pump. It's timed somehow off that for the cam timing, and then the crank is gear driven over to this. I would have something like that, because when I spin this crank, it still spins everything. So now that has me really curious. I would love to open one of these up and see how it's like gear driven and everything. I guess I could look that up, but I like to see it in person. So put some new seals on this, clean this up. I'm just gonna put stuff back on. Made some EGR block offs, block those off. I'm gonna put everything back on, seal it up before I go to address the injectors because I don't wanna get any mess in there. Kind of wrap this up for today by sealing it back up. Probably show you guys more next time when I work on it, and hopefully at that point we're doing stuff on the lift kit and on the tires, stuff like that. Or maybe I'll show you finished, reassembled engine bay stuff. And look at that, it's all back together. One thing I had an issue with was repriming the fuel after I pulled all the fuel lines off, injectors. There was an air pocket at the beginning, so it took a while to prime the fuel, but here we go. Boom, fires right up. Sounds real clickety-clackety, like it always did, like it should. And I was able to find a way to still use this actuator, so it still has like a smooth, still has a smooth shutdown. So at first, I went without that. There's like a little butterfly and a big butterfly in the throttle body, and I had the actuator removed because I was like, oh, it'll be cleaner. And then you shut it off and it's like, and come to like a dead stop. Kind of like, I guess my Cummins does that, but now it's like a lot smoother. It still shakes because it's a diesel, but it's kind of like how it used to be. And we're on a lift right now. I still got to do the full lift kit and the upper arms and ball joints and whatnot, but so much stuff went into this and I just want to drive it. Oh, I forgot to show you guys. Took this intake manifold off and fully cleaned it. It was like, it seriously, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think it literally in some areas had a 1/4 inch of like sludge buildup from the EGR just pumping. You know, diesels run kind of, you know, black oil and dirty anyway. The intake air is just disgusting. So I cleaned out that, and then I even cleaned out each port, like going in, made sure the valve was closed and rotated the engine so I could clean the specific ones. Cleaned it out, probably not perfect like it would be new, but way better. Had years of buildup in there. So I fixed some of that. So what I'm gonna do is lower it off the lift, go drive it around a little bit, make sure everything's good, then put it back on the lift, and over the next 2-3 days, in between what I'm doing in the office and whatever, I'll knock out this lift and show you guys some other little stuff that I was doing to it. All right, gonna go drive it. All right, guys, here we go. The hard part. I say that because we got a lot of, I already sprayed some like PB blaster on here. We got a lot of rusty looking situations, nuts, bolts. Does have this cool adjustable piece, so I don't gotta buy one of those. Don't know if I'll have to adjust that longer. Like I said, this already had a lift kit on it, but it's just blown out and old. It's like little surface rust on all that. So I'm gonna yank these out. It's not gonna be quick. I'm gonna get really dirty, but then after hopefully a hard day's work today, have that installed, lower ball joints, and what I got was 2nd gen 4Runner front end links that are gonna go in the back, and then 3rd gen 4Runner rear links, they're gonna go in the front. Little thing I learned from YouTube. Okay, gotta go. All right, so rusted ones are out. Got the new ones in. Got the new end links. These are the front links off a 2nd gen, like a 89 to 95 4Runner. Gives us about 1 inch more length. So then your sway bar is more in its proper position with the lift kit. One thing I did notice, so it came with this adjustable bar. It was quite a hassle to loosen it and extend it because it's old and had a little bit of rust. This is my e-brake cable. The rear of the car is gonna be the same height as it always was. Had a 3-inch lift. It's like the front only had a 1-inch lift, and the truck was like raked looking. Don't like the way it looked. So that's why we're doing this. They were adjustable, but they were pretty rusted like I showed you, so I just want them out. I need to make like a little extension bracket here or leave this unhooked because this was like bound, like about to rip it, and that's handbrake cable. What I'm thinking is if I can find a way to add a plate that's like a 1-inch plate. I just need to find something. Maybe I have to make something, I don't know yet. So that's one last thing I gotta do back here, and then I also need to drain the diff fluid because I'm sure that's gonna be disgusting, and then refill it. Forgot about that, but I'm gonna do that here shortly too. And then we go to the front, and the front is not gonna be as quick because upper control arms, coilovers, lower ball joints, and the end links. So got my work cut out for me, guys. Did the easy stuff first, but this Sunex trans jack definitely helped out major on what I just did. Made it pretty dang easy. Okay, so that's the back. I'm gonna go get started on the front and update you guys in a bit. All day, still not done. Finished this side. It's got an eBay upper control arm. Got the new coilovers. Got the little bit longer end links on the sway bar. And we got new, it's hard to see, Moog lower ball joints. Both sides have that. Both sides have the coilover and the end link. But what I really fought with for hours was removing this. And I have the right, or I mean, maybe there's multiple right kinds, but I have one that's meant to push a ball joint out. It grabs here and it pushes here, and it kind of worked on the other side where you would like put as much tension as you could, then you're heating this up, hammering on here, and eventually it popped out. Well, this side, when I start putting tension, it immediately just goes and moves over, like, because this one's looser. I'm gonna give up for today. It's like 8:30, it's getting like pretty late. I'm gonna go eat dinner, and I'll think of a way that I can do this. I need a different tool or some way to like clamp this where it's not gonna move. I tried putting a socket over it with a 3/4 drive socket, so this would fit over and it would start to work and then still slide over, and so that didn't even work. I don't know. I'll think of it. There's been so many rusted bolts, like I had to put new nuts on this, chase all the threads, and then I've been replacing bolts. There's just a lot of rust, so quite a pain. Oh, check this out. Like, I've never had this happen where you're taking the coils apart. I should have filmed this, but it was like super like level 10 sketchy. I guess I swept and there's stuff on top of it. Well, here's the spring, super rusted. Both of these shocks though, I had to cut with a Sawzall to be able to separate it. And I thought it was gonna like shoot out. It surprisingly did not. It only like, one fell out and the other one just stayed in the body of the spring and kind of just hung out. I was doing it in a vise and I was wearing eye protection, so I think overall I was being pretty safe. Yeah, so here's all the old parts I'm gonna throw away. I gotta raise the car up a bit and sweep, and then I just got a pile of rusty stuff, but I'm pretty happy because this stuff was just gonna seize up on there anyway, so throwing it all away. I think we're gonna need an alignment, but I'll find out tomorrow when I put everything back on, but it looks like, to me, it looks like we're gonna be positive camber, and so we're gonna have to, because of that upper control arm. But if I didn't do that, it was gonna be like too much of a lift and binding on that same ball joint that I've been having issues with, the one I had to press out of here. So I think what we're gonna have to do to compensate is take the eccentric bolts and chase them outward to make the track width slightly wider to make it kind of neutral camber again in the front. But yeah, we're basically one step away from being done on our end and then have to go to the alignment shop. Good day overall, but frustrating that I couldn't finish because of that one pesky seized up thing. Talk to you guys tomorrow. New day. My problem was, so I have this puller that, you know, you loosen it up a little bit more and it goes around the bottom here. These will grab there. I need to press this whole thing out, even though these might look like the same piece of metal there. This is pressed in, so I need to press that ball joint out. My problem is every time I start tightening it, it's going good and you get, you know, a little bit of tension and then it binds over to the side, messes you up. So what I'm gonna do is go get a angle grinder, cut off wheel, and I'm gonna chop this off as low as I can get it where the blade's kind of flush with that. Then I'm gonna clean up all that oil and I'm gonna bring the MIG welder over here and I'm gonna make a plate or find a washer or something that's same ID or OD as this, so that it can still press through and fall through. And I'm just gonna weld a flat top on that. So then this, it won't be hard for it, it'll just be pressing on a flat surface. And because this took a lot of tension, a lot of heat on the other side, I had it like super tight as I could get it, and it was just sitting still, nothing happening. You couldn't even see an air gap here. And then I'm heating this up with a MAP gas torch and tapping it with a brass hammer just indefinitely to like kind of loosen it up, and eventually it gave way. But yeah, this one making it harder. So I'm gonna go get some tools, get set up and do that. Once I get that out, then we can connect everything and test drive the truck, see if it needs, I know it's gonna need an alignment. Get ready to go get an alignment then. So cut it off. I found this little metal plate. There's like a rounded cap that's actually a little bit arced. Shouldn't interfere. Welded it. The weld may or may not have been sticking out a little too far. I don't think it was, but just in case, I flapped this around it so it'll fall right through. Now I'm going to put this on, heat it up, start getting it off. I'll show you as I get it off, guys. Last but worst part, I guess there's been a lot of rusty bolts, but this probably was the hardest thing. I spent about an hour on the one on the other side. Let's see if I can do this one in way less time. All right, so as you can see, tighten it down super hard, instantly bent that. Then I've been heating it up, still not showing any signs of making like a little hairline air gap there. So just need to keep going, keep adding more heat, and then torquing down a tiny bit more on top here. So just keep going, but it's gonna happen. And before I wasn't even able to put any like pressure on this, it would just bend over each time. So making progress, about to get this out. Took a lot of heat, we're out. Couple more turns, it's gonna fall out. Yeah, there we go. Basically, we finished it. That would be the hardest part, and we did that. Oh, it's interfering with that little bracket. I'll move that. All right, so now we can assemble the other couple pieces, put it down, and go test it. All right, so I have bad news. It's a little bit higher in the front, so I went on the highest setting in the front. It claims the back would be 2.5-inch lift. It looks lower than it used to be in the back, and it's high. It was like way lower in the front before, now it's higher in the front. So there's 3 settings. I could go to the middle setting, but man, that's a pain. But we can't live with this. Or I could raise the back by putting longer stroke shocks or higher spring rate rear springs, which don't want it to do, so I just drove it. It is like so much smoother than it used to be, because these are more like light off-road, mostly road use, according to what I read when I bought it, because there's like 2 different spring settings, and I got the more less aggressive one because this car mostly just drives on the road. So I'm gonna look at it for a little bit longer, but I think I have to lower it down a tiny bit. It could be adjusted a little bit with the camber on the alignment, but I'm really picky about ride height. Like when I was setting up this car, it was literally 3 or 4 times of like setting it down on its own weight, driving it around. I'm like, nope, tiny bit too low, raise it back up until I got where I wanted it for that car. So it's, I guess, expected. It's just harder to do on this because they're non-adjustable. Like with like a spanner wrench, you have to like compress the spring, remove that collar, and I'll figure it out though. We got the tools. Yeah, it's a little higher in the front now, and I don't like it. It's close, but not quite. Okay, so Renee says we're leaving it, drive it for a little bit. What I can do though is get those slightly upgraded or stiffer rear springs, and it'll probably raise it like that little tiny 1/2 inch. It literally only needs about a 1/2 inch. So picky, but yeah. That's it, guys. We're done for today. I'm gonna go drive it over to the alignment shop. The Hilux is ready for its next upgrades. For now, it's done though on this stage, and then give it a couple months and we'll get some more parts for it.